Okay, so I just have the 4 inside pieces all together. They're all the same cut. And then I just did a double stitch on that center seam. And to make it easier so I don't have to keep changing the presser foot and the needles, I just flipped it the other direction and then did like another seam down the edge of it. And then, so those 4 pieces are all sewn, I don't know if you can see this, all sewn together on that inside center edge, so when you open it up with 2 pieces on the side, it'll kind of be like the finished mask on the other side. And then you get the 2 outside pieces, and then the same thing down that center seam, I just did the 2 stitches. And then flipped it over and then ran that second one. And then you'll put the 2 finished sides together. So you'll open up the inside piece, there'll be 2 on each side, and then open up the finished one. And then the only thing here is to make sure that you have the tops and the bottoms the right direction. And since they're all cut the exact same way, you don't need to do any tucking or anything, but I just put a pin at the top where the seams match up, and then a couple along the edges so that it doesn't move and slip and slide. And then you'll just leave one of these short edge pieces open so you can flip it the right side out. So I just left the edge that I didn't want to sew unpinned so I wouldn't forget when I was done. And then the same, you'll just do that 1/4 inch seam all the way around. I didn't start on the right side there, but normally if you just start on one edge of the open seam, go all the way around, it should be fine. And then I didn't trim close to the stitch just because I didn't want it to potentially fray once it was flipped back to the other side and had been washed at the hospital. I had a couple little pieces that were like further over, so I just trimmed off like that little edge piece. But other than that, I didn't trim it. I just left it all as it was. I went all the way around except for this side. So now I will flip it inside out, and you'll just grab the two inside pieces on one side, flip it all the way around, and then if you've got a little gadget, I just have this little thing that's got like a rounded ball in the end, and I just used that to poke out the other ear cheek piece so it was squared. Stick it in. Just went around the edge. And then whatever makes it easier for you, like once you've sewn one, you're like, oh, well, I could probably do this easier. I keep finding easier ways to do it. But you can just tuck in that unfinished edge. And I didn't really pin around the edges when I did the outside. And just that in there, and then again the 1/4 inch all the way around. And just kind of make sure that the edges are where they're supposed to be for the seam. Then you'll just have the basic flat mask. It's easier to see this way. The basic flat mask, and you'll see like the edges are all sewn on each side, and then this is where you'll take the two little end pieces here and you'll just tuck them over, and then you can make another seam down that same stitch you did right here, and that'll leave enough gap for the string ties to be pushed in. And I just took some 36-inch pieces of fabric and rolled them so that none of the frayed edges were showing, and then I just fed them through and did one little tiny stitch on the bottom so it'll stay, but then each provider that needs to use them can flip them around and do what they need to with them. And then this one, I did do quite a long back stitch on it just to make sure that the stitching wouldn't come out. And you can do exact measurements on the side of this, but just kind of eyeballed it to make sure it was big enough that we could fit something through there. And then if they need to at the hospital, they can add the elastic to it. Okay, so that is just the basic mask. And the important thing is to know which side is the top and which side's the bottom. And then that makes sure that when they put it on, it'll fit snugly up over the top of their nose and then down under their chin. I don't know if you can see that. And then it'll be a little space here. And then when they do those strings, they'll tie those strings up here and then down here. And then they can wear these over their regular masks to try to help keep them unsoiled and to give them a little bit more protection if they don't have the mask that they need. And then the same for the string. I just kind of tucked all the edges in, and then I'll just do one stitch across the top and then down the sides of it, and then that'll just loop in through here. And then in the center, once it's all done and in there in the center, I'll just do one little stitch so that when they launder them, the string won't come out. They'll still have that to be able to tie. And that's pretty much it.